Hi there and welcome again to Get Indie Gaming, and to our May edition of the series where we peer into the indie game launch schedules and cherry pick our top 5 for this rundown. With this May being the busiest month for indie game releases so far this year, we've been spoilt for choice, and with this in mind, let's get cracking with a look into a slightly extended overview of a selection that didn't quite make it into the top of the list. With an immersive and zombie-free post-apocalypse environment, Farlone Sales offers a vehicle adventure game within a muted and yet stunning visual landscapes accompanied by a rich and intricate soundtrack. At its heart, this one offers a steampunk puzzle platforming simulation adventure and comes to the PC May 17th. From the two-person team at Spacecam, Juicy Realm, a twin-stick top-down roguelike shooter that's about taking on and defeating sentient plants that now sit upon the top of the global food chain. With a single-player and local co-op options, this fun-looking game launches on the PC May 3rd, with mobile and Switch versions due out later in the year. Leaving early access May 4th, City of Brass is an action-adventure game from senior Bioshock developers that sees you lash, slash and trap your way across a procedurally generated roguish Arabian Nights, like FPS within interconnected corridors, rooms and courtyards. From the Hamburg-based developer Mistaken Visions, the piano is part traditional survival horror and part noir-influenced murder mystery where you play as a failed pianist accused of his brother's murders. You seek answers on the streets of post-war Paris. Exclusive to the Switch, Garage launches May 10th and appears to be a retro VHS-inspired, gory top-down shooter where you play as Butch, a former drug dealer who finds himself uncovering a secret underworld filled with mutants and the undead. Inspired by the classic arcade races of the 80s and 90s, Horizon Case Turbo offers a single-player, split-screen couch co-op multiplayer across all its gaming modes. This takes us back to the likes of Outrun, Rush, and Lotus Turbo Challenge. Headed for the PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, Moonlighter lands this May 29th and will also come with a physical release and special edition. Moonlighter puts you in the shoes of an adventurous shopkeeper with dreams of becoming a hero. You'll fight numerous monsters and bosses, find loot, craft and enchant, all while looking after the day-to-day running of your village shop. And the final game in this month's Honourable Mentions, coming from a 4-person team based out of Sweden, in Lake Ridden we're set to be treated with a delightful looking first-person, narrative-driven, supernatural puzzler that follows the story of a girl in search for her lost sister. Whilst exploration is a large part of the game, the logic and visual puzzle-solving aspects are the star of the show. This one launches May 10th on the PC. With the Honourable Mentions safely taken care of for this May, we'll head straight into this month's Top 5.
RHC Emergency Operator, what is your emergency?
My name's Harper Pendrell. I just found a woman and she's really sick. There's blood everywhere. I think it's Yelltown fever.
Let's begin with Unforeseen Incidents, a game that appears to be a classically styled interactive mystery within a handsomely hand-painted environment. For us, it's the quality of the in-game art and the potential gameplay that sees it make this rundown for May. The overall look and feel suggests an atmosphere more likely depicted within a graphic novel, as offered by the muted and restrained backgrounds, alongside the depictions of the characters and their odd-shaped heads, spidery bodies, and overall colour tone that sets it apart from the more usual point-and-click adventures. You'll play as Harper Pendrell, an odd-job man from a small town who finds himself in the middle of a terrible conspiracy. An unknown disease is spreading across the country, and having found a dying woman in the street infected with it, she asks him to deliver an envelope to a journalist, and only they, together with a scientist and a reclusive artist, hold the keys in stopping this plague. The game features what's said to be a challenging investigation, smart dialogue, and a rich cast of interesting characters, and comes with a full English and German voice acting. Unforeseen Incidents hits the PC May 24th, with possible launches across mobile platforms at some point in the future. Long-term viewers will perhaps instantly recognise Yakus Island Express, which launches for the PC and all the main consoles on May 29th. Here we have a mix of an open world and a Metroidvania-style adventure that blends platforming navigation with pinball gameplay and puzzle mechanics. This one, naturally enough, sees you play as Yaku, a dung beetle who, having arrived on the island of Mokomana, becomes the local postmaster. Expecting an easy life, soaking up the sun and delivering parcels on this tropical island, this idyllic lifestyle is shattered when a slumbering deity brings havoc to the island brought forth by its nightmares occurring during its restless sleep. Yaku's Island Express is a fairly unique offering both on paper and on screen, with its quirky handcraft visuals and split gameplay methodologies. The visuals are bold and bright with its contrasting colours and full of strong organic shapes. From the four-person team at Villa Gorilla and founded by AAA industry veterans, we're hoping to pick this one up for the Switch, where we think Yaku will lend itself nicely for on-the-go handheld gaming. At number 3, Worlds Adrift will launch into early access, exclusive to the PC on May the 17th. A long time coming, this massively multiplayer online title comes honestly and correctly billed as a community-crafted game that offers players the ability to create parts of a fantasy world amongst oceans of floating islands, where the underlying premise stems from the creation of emergent gameplay and stories driven by the creators. Bossa Studios had originally set about to create a procedurally generated limitless world, this at a time when the excitement and promise of No Man's Sky held much sway, and yet as the game progressed, these design ideas were switched from procedural generation to one driven by the players themselves. The similarities to the recently released Sea of Thieves is a fair comparison, and yet Worlds Adrift seems to be more sandboxed, where there is no questing, and your ability and creativity with the available resources, together with your shipbuilding skills, are key to the experience rather than carving out a somewhat scripted path. We've been playing the closed beta for a while, and we're happy to say Worlds Adrift is something quite different, and if you give it the effort, it's hugely enjoyable, be this exploring alone or with your friends. There's also the genuine excitement that's felt when you come across other players, be they on their own or within a group. Will they be friendly, or will they attack you and your craft and try to loot its content? Well, that's all part of the fun. Given the gameplay, where you're largely responsible for creating the fun yourselves, this won't appeal to everyone. Pricing aside, and at $24 and nearly £20, this is expensive for early access. Those looking for this type of emergent experience might fancy dipping their toes into the water. In Forgotten Anne, May's runner-up, we have a game that hands down no question looks like a Stadio Ghibli movie and will launch on May 15th for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One and the PC. The immediate appeal of Forgotten Anne comes from its overall beautifully handcrafted animation art style, hinged together with the clever use of background colorings and industrial imagery that delivers an almost cinematic aesthetic, more associated with a feature-length high-tier animation studio rather than a relatively small indie game studio. You play as Anne, a woman from our world who finds herself within a fantasy environment where mundane, left behind and forgotten items such as socks, bits of paper and scarves have come to life within a 2D adventure game that merges sections of platforming with puzzle solving. Aside from this type of gameplay, we're looking forward to see how the game implements what's said to be a moral choice system, where actions and decisions have an ongoing consequence due to the game's multi-branching storylines. We're hoping the storyline and events as you progress demonstrate how your choices impact the environment, unlike, say, the recent released War games from one of the creators of Her Story, where the premise, as we reviewed at launch, got lost within its execution. Alongside the visuals, the musical score seems suitably fitting and comes from the Copenhagen Philharmonic Orchestra. As should be fairly obvious, we're super looking forward to getting hold of Forgotten Anne, and if the game is as grand as its visuals and sounds, we should be in for something rather special. At number 1 for May, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire is a sequel to Pillars of Eternity and drew $4.4 million in a FIG campaign back in early of last year. Deadfire is a direct sequel to its predecessor and takes place in the world of Aora. Once again, players will assume the role of the Watcher, and in a clever twist, players' actions and decisions from the first game can carry over into Deadfire and influence the gameplay and story in this sequel. New players, or those not wanting to carry their game over into this game, can choose their own starting scenarios at the outset. On the gameplay front, as always, we're attracted to these type of isometric RPGs with its immersive dynamic weather systems, all within an overall visual and sonic package that's a vast improvement on the original. Putting aside how pretty this all sounds and looks, we're encouraged to hear Deadfire offers multiple options and player choices. Quests can be completed in numerous ways, often with routes for a solution with or without combat. Gone too with the original rest abilities, with every character now having empower points that enables them to enhance one of their other skills by an impressive magnitude. For example, when using these empower points, the magic missile skill, for example, turns a salvo of 4 missiles into one containing 4 times as many projectiles. Other changes include the tweaking of the stealth aspects. NPCs now have vision cones and you're able to distract them by throwing objects. You can also pickpocket enemies to take keys and other such items with a well-timed slip of the wrist. The largest change is of course the new pirate theme, together with the ship management systems, which serves as a mobile base for exploring uncharted islands and for engaging with ship-to-ship encounters. If that doesn't float your boat, you don't need to get involved too much in the way of ship-based combat, with the game being able to be completed without ever engaging in such antics. With 3 post-launch DLC options already confirmed, there's plenty longevity here for fans of the series. While launching on May 8th on the PC, Deadfire will also come to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One and the Switch later in the year. With Deadfire wrapping things up for May, we'd love to hear which games you would be interested in playing or wishlisting, and also any others you would have liked to have seen in this month's rundown. Feel free to let us know in the usual sections. If you've liked the video, please click on that thumbs up button. It really does help to get this type of content out amongst a wider audience, and if you haven't already done so, why not subscribe? Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to welcoming you all back here soon for more videos.